Tessa had always been drawn to the quiet, the chaos of city life, the endless noise, the suffocating crowds. It all felt like a cage. So when she stumbled upon the house-sitting gig in a remote mountain cabin, it seemed like a dream come true. The owner, an elderly woman named Marjorie, had explained over the phone that she was heading out for several weeks and needed someone reliable to keep an eye on the place, feed the cat, and water the plants. That was it. No strings attached. The cabin was perched on the edge of a dense forest, nestled between towering pines that whispered secrets in the wind. The air smelled of damp earth and pine resin, cool and sharp. At first it felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. Tessa spent her first days exploring the forest trails, reading old novels by the crackling fireplace, and slowly sinking into a kind of tranquil solitude. She called her best friend every night, assuring her that it was just the isolation talking, that everything was fine. But then, on the third day, Tessa noticed the footprints. They were faint at first, half covered by a layer of moss and fallen leaves, but unmistakably human. They led from the edge of the woods toward the cabin, stopping just short of the porch. Her skin prickled as she crouched down to inspect them more closely. These weren't Marjorie's, and definitely not her own. They were large, uneven, like someone had been dragging a heavy boot. Her heart thumped wildly as she stood and scanned the tree line, the dense forest suddenly seeming much less inviting. She told herself it was probably a hiker, someone passing through, but no one had mentioned any nearby trails, and the roads were miles away. She felt a shadow of unease creep through her chest. That night, Tessa lay awake, the cabin dark and silent except for the occasional creak of old wood settling. Every snap of a twig outside made her jump. Around midnight, she thought she heard whispering, low, guttural sounds that seemed to seep through the walls. She told herself it was just the wind or her imagination. The following morning, she found something else, a crudely carved symbol scratched into the bark of a tree near the cabin, a circle with jagged lines radiating from its center. It was unfamiliar and unsettling. Her hands trembled as she took a photo, her mind racing with questions. Why would someone mark a tree so close to a private home? That afternoon, Tessa decided to investigate. She followed the footprints deeper into the forest, her breath visible in the chilly air. The path twisted through thick underbrush and tangled roots. The sun filtered weakly through the canopy, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance just beyond her vision. After nearly an hour, she stumbled onto a small clearing. At its center was a makeshift campsite, long abandoned, ashes cold and gray, a rusted knife half buried in the dirt, scraps of cloth torn and stained. Her stomach churned. This wasn't just a random visitor. Someone had been living out here. Suddenly, a sharp noise cracked behind her, a branch snapping. She whipped around, heart pounding, but saw nothing. The forest swallowed the sound, but the cold prickling at the back of her neck told her she wasn't alone. Back at the cabin, Tessa tried to steady herself. She locked every door and window, even bolting the front door with an old iron latch she found under the sink. But as night fell again, the sense of dread thickened, suffocating. Then the knocks started. Soft at first, tentative raps on the door, then louder, more urgent, like someone testing her defenses. Tessa pressed herself against the wall, clutching a heavy kitchen knife, breath shallow. The knock stopped abruptly, replaced by a low, slow scrape. Something dragged across the wooden floor outside. Frozen, she barely dared to move. Then a shadow flickered past the window, quick and silent. She screamed, rushing to shut the curtains, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The next days became a waking nightmare. Every sound, every flicker of movement sent her heart racing. The footprints multiplied, circling the cabin as if the forest itself were closing in. Sometimes she caught glimpses of a figure, pale, hunched, watching from the trees with eyes that gleamed like cold steel. One afternoon, while gathering firewood, Tessa stumbled upon a chilling discovery. A tattered doll hanging from a tree branch, its eyes gouged out, the threadbare clothes stained dark. It swayed gently in the breeze, a grotesque warning. She felt bile rise in her throat. Her phone had no signal, the battery draining faster than it should. She was completely isolated. Desperation clawed at her as she realized the truth. She was being hunted. One night, the power went out. The cabin was plunged into total darkness, save for the weak glow of her flashlight. She heard whispering again, closer this time, circling the cabin like a predator. Suddenly, the front door handle jiggled violently. Someone was trying to get in. Tessa ran to the back door, but it was blocked, as if something heavy had been pushed against it. Panic surged through her veins. She darted toward the fireplace, grabbing a poker, ready to defend herself. The front door burst open. A tall figure stepped inside, face obscured by shadow. His breath was ragged, uneven. The gleam of a knife caught the light. Tessa screamed and bolted, darting through the kitchen toward a small trapdoor under the stairs. She flung it open and crawled into the dark crawl space, pulling the door shut just as heavy footsteps thundered down the hall. She squeezed into the cramped space, tears blurring her vision, heart hammering so loud it drowned out everything else. The man's voice echoed above her, rough and menacing, calling her name. He knew she was there. Hours passed like this, every moment stretched thin with terror. But when dawn finally broke, Tessa heard the man leave, the heavy door slamming shut behind him. She waited, too scared to move, until the forest was bathed in soft morning light. Climbing out, she saw the man's footprints leading away, deeper into the woods, but then, suddenly, they vanished. She thought she was safe. But as she turned back to the cabin, a sudden noise behind her, a twig snapping, made her whip around. Standing just beyond the trees was the man, a faint smile twisting his lips. She screamed and ran, the forest swallowing her frantic steps. For hours she ran blindly, branches tearing at her clothes and skin, sobbing, screaming, helpless. She found an old ranger's hut, broken and abandoned, and collapsed inside, barely breathing. When she dared to look outside, there was no sign of him. Tessa didn't stop running until she reached the main road, where a passing car finally stopped to help her. She never found out who the man was or what he wanted. But she knew one thing, he was still out there, waiting. And next time, he wouldn't let her escape. If you enjoyed this chilling tale and want more spine-tingling stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones you see, but the ones lurking just beyond the trees. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes open.